We've taken a bit longer than normal with our opening.
Well, we leave our coverage of the briefing there, but the questions to the First Minister continue over on the BBC Scotland channel. Well, just now, I'm joined by the leader of the Scottish Conservatives, Douglas Ross, who joins me down the line. And Mr Ross, thank you for joining us. We turn to the briefing as a whole and just pick up on the university issue that the First Minister was discussing. You were saying earlier that treating students in this way is just not right. What do you feel about the First Minister was saying there? Do you think this situation is now being addressed, taken control of?
No, absolutely not. We've got no further clarity. The confusion and the uncertainty continues. I know a lot of students will be watching this just now, hoping to get clarity from the Scottish Government, and they've been told to wait even longer. We've got no further knowledge on what they are going to be allowed to do or otherwise. And many young people watching this left home just a couple of weeks ago to start off the next stage in their education, excited about the opportunities. Their families have been watching closely how this has developed. And both the students and families and parents are now thinking, what's next? What can or can't they do? Will they be able to come home at Christmas? Will this continue for months, maybe half a year? And there's absolutely no clarity. They've been left in limbo, and it's unacceptable because the Scottish Government had been warned. They had been told this was coming on the horizon, and they've been left completely out of touch because they have not provided the clarity that students and their families deserve and require.
What do you think, though, the Scottish Government could have done differently?
Well, they absolutely should have seen this coming, and they were warned about this. They were told when the universities go back, there's potential for an increase in cases, and I know and I absolutely understand that the increase in cases that we've seen recently isn't solely down to universities going back, but the government were warned here in Scotland to be prepared for this, and they are not. And the fact that the messaging has changed, the students were told they could go home, they couldn't go home, they're not sure, will they get home for Christmas, will they not? That's where we need clarity, and that's where we need to ensure students and their parents watching at home right now understand what can and can't happen, and they simply don't have that from the Scottish Government. Well, testing in Scotland can be assisted by both the UK and the Scottish governments, but there is an obligation on the Scottish Government, because this is a public health matter, to ensure we've got the capacity in testing. And Scottish Conservatives have been calling for weeks to ensure there is a greater capacity to allow more widespread testing across communities. And we've seen that is clearly an issue with students coming back to university at the moment. Again, the Scottish Government weren't prepared for this, and we need to get on top of it. We need to be able to tell students and their families watching right now what they can expect, and testing will play a key role. And again, we seem to be behind the curve on that. Well, certainly no one hopes that we have to end up with the restrictions that we had 6 months ago, but there have been clear warnings from both the UK Government and the Scottish Government that the number of infections is increasing, and we're not through this pandemic yet. There will be more difficult times that we all have to face, but with a combined effort we can get through this. But it will be difficult, there's more difficult times ahead, but we have to ensure that we work together, we follow the guidance, but that guidance has to be clear, and that's what really is so disappointing with this whole situation with university students. The guidance isn't clear. We're asking young people and their families to help us get on top of this virus, but the Scottish Government aren't telling them what to do.
Douglas Ross, leader of the Scottish Conservatives, thank you very much for joining us.